So let me quickly introduce Renee Helder and Mandy Geddes, who are hosting this session on becoming a coach. When I first started at IACL 11 years ago, neither Renee nor Mandy were coaching. And it's in that time that they have invested time and effort and a considerable amount of perseverance and dedication to become the coaches that they are today. And so in terms of explaining what it takes to become a coach, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Renee, who started her career in sales and then moved into coaching, as I shared before, and Mandy Geddes, who is the longest running employee in IACL, and we love her dearly. She's been here for, I don't know, I can't count that high, and IACL just would not be the same without her. So Renee, Mandy, we look forward to your session on becoming a coach and sharing some of your personal experience.
Thank you, John.
John, I'm just going to take over the screen share. There we go. So here we are, Mandy.
Here we are.
There's you and I and a few of our special guests, I believe, who are waiting in the wings for their moment, and we're so glad to be sharing this session with them. So people will be hearing from you and I, but also from some other people who are becoming coaches or have become coaches. So let's get started. The good news is that if you are thinking about becoming an organisational coach and you're wondering if you have what it takes, that anyone can learn. Absolutely. It's absolutely the sort of thing that is being thought of more as a life skill, a professional skill, something that is a craft that anyone can learn. And today what we're hoping to take you through are a few things. Let's show you what the things we're looking to take you through. What does it take? So we'll be sharing with you qualities and characteristics that we feel it takes, things that we've identified in participants that have becoming through our accredited coach training pathway, people who we've hired as coaches, alumni members of ours who've gone on to build really successful coaching businesses, thriving businesses. We'll share qualities and characteristics that we see in those people. We also believe it takes coach-specific training. We're a little biased around this, but we certainly do believe it takes some solid training, and we'll talk you through our approach to that. Plenty of practice, and some more practice. The practice never ends. Because it is a craft, it's something that's honed through practice and application, and ongoing development, a commitment to development that really never ends, because in coaching, the more you learn, the more you realize there is to learn. And every day it feels there's some new knowledge base or piece of evidence or some research or some experience that we're learning about that really just continues to inform this field. So let's have a look at some of the qualities and characteristics as a starting point. And some of these are a little overlapping, but we've tried to categorize them under sort of four main areas: mindset, attitude and outlook, experience in life and organization, and commitment. And by mindset, we mean that regardless of where you are at in your career, what you've achieved before in other fields, when you come to coaching, you bring a beginner's mindset. That's one of the qualities and characteristics that we see in people who really go on to thrive as coaches, because it's that openness to learning and to change, to being able to role model that mindset, the mindset that we ask of those who we coach. We ask them to be open to learning and change, and we need to model that too. A growth mindset, which has come up in sessions already today, where the growth mindset really allowing us to see mistakes as opportunities to grow, and being okay with the discomfort that comes with giving new things a try. Seeing feedback as constructive, helpful, learning from that, being open to it, and really gaining enjoyment from trying those new things, from experimenting with this thing, coaching. And also, the mindset of readiness, a mindset of, bring on the challenge, bring on the stretch. I actually really want, I want to be taken outside of my comfort zone. Yes, that's a little bit scary at times, but I'm open to that. And that's what we identify. It does connect with attitude and outlook. They overlap quite a bit, but here we're thinking about an attitude around a few things, particularly an attitude that needs to come to unlearning, to the way we actually view and look at that discomfort of realizing that there's some things that we've, practices, habits, patterns of thinking, ways of working that we've developed over time, and that maybe some of those things don't serve us so well in coaching. So an attitude and an outlook that allows us to be open to some unlearning and letting go of those things as well, some of those things, as well as holding on to some others that will absolutely serve us well. And the attitude of a lifelong learner, an attitude that extends beyond this week, this year, and looks ahead at seeing, your coaching practice as a build. Experience in life and organisations. This is an interesting one because we do have an increasingly broad demographic, all sorts of people, life experiences and organisation, and from all sorts of organisations coming through our coach training programs and going on to build either internal or external coaching practices, thriving ones. But we do, even when people, come through that say particularly, there are younger and younger people coming through our programs, but those who go on to be really successful, regardless of their age and experience in life and work, they do have a depth of understanding around organisations. This is organisational coaching after all. And it's around an understanding of how we interact with organisational systems and how they impact us. Some of those dynamics, if you were here for my earlier session where I talked through those lenses, those 4 lenses of the coaching landscape, where you have a felt experience of operating in that whole system. And you can draw on that understanding and that experience to be able to, do your best work as a coach, which of course enables us to ask, some powerful questions, some interesting and different and unusual questions about that system in support of our counterparts, the people we work with. And finally, a commitment. So, coaching is not the sort of thing that you can master quickly. It's often described as simple, but not easy. And so because it takes time, often years, to become a highly impactful coach, and because, as I mentioned before, the learning never stops, it does take time and commitment. So if that excites you, if you have the tenacity and the patience to keep practicing, reflecting, having a good hard look at yourself, being open to learning and supervision, maybe sometimes falling off the horse and being able to get back on again, then coaching could be for you. Now I'm going to hand over to Mandy to take you through our coach training.
Thanks so much, Renee, and great to see you all here today. So for those of you who are not yet in the field of coaching and are looking at entering it, you're really moving towards the center of this circle. At level 1 in IECL coach training, we're very much looking at what it takes to be a functional coach. And if you're keen to kind of be operating out in that outer area, you might be frustrated to have to start at the beginning, but our experience of teaching coaches how to be really great coaches over 23 years has led us to understand that you really need those firm foundations, that functional capability that we teach at level 1. And it's very much like a building block, a foundation for the rest of your coaching. And sometimes I think people can get a little bit frustrated in level 1 in that we are kind of forcing them to relearn, as Renee said, to unlearn some of the ways in which they might have previously engaged in conversation, and actually stripping back a lot of the old habits of conversation and leadership or management or whatever it is they're bringing into that coaching conversation, and learning a new way to have a new conversation. And a coaching conversation is very, very different to almost any other kind of conversation. So at level 1, there's quite a lot of unlearning, of stripping back, of getting back to basics. And it can be a little bit frustrating sometimes, but inevitably by the end of our level 1 3-day workshop, people are feeling, experiencing from coaching and being coached the potential to coach and what coaching can do. Because after even only 3 days of actually coaching and being coached, you start to get a little bit of a sense of how coaching can be quite transformational and quite life-changing for many people. So level 1 is all about giving you the functional capabilities so that when you go out into organizations, whether it's as an internal or as an external coach, that the coaching you do gets results right away. And that's important both for you, for your confidence as a coach, but it's also important for the people you're coaching, that they get that experience of, okay, I'm now thinking differently, I'm going to act on it, and things are changing. Things are different. So that's level 1. And level 1, I talk about 3-day workshop, but really it takes about 7 or 8 weeks to go through the entire process of level 1. So we do ease you into that quite intensive workshop with some free work. And then after the workshop, we immediately get you coaching right away in your cohort, coaching each other, and so that you experience what it's like to be on the receiving end of coaching. And we do what we call real play throughout our training, not role play, but real play. So you're getting coached on real situations, and you get to feel what that's like. When people come back for level 2, it is quite a leap forward. And it's because we are taking you out of that very kind of functional capability level of coaching that can sometimes feel, especially when you've been doing level 1 coaching for a little while, it can start to feel like, okay, there must be more to it than this. And yes, there is more, and that's really around relational intelligence. So level 2 is really about beginning to learn how to listen very, very differently. And you're actually beginning in level 2 to listen for things like the unsaid, the things that someone is not saying, but perhaps you are noticing in their body language, in their tone of voice, in the way that they move around or squirm when you ask a particular question. So there's a whole other level of intelligence that you are learning as a coach, and a whole new relationship to how you relate to your counterparts. Inevitably, people always wish they had come back sooner for level 2 because it does open up a whole new world of coaching. And we do tend to put the brakes on you a little bit in that we ask you to really get your functional capability down pat so that you're really strong as a functional coach before you come back into level 2. And then at level 3, once people have been through level 2 and they've gone off and done quite a bit of practice, and in fact, we recommend about 50 hours of practice, you can come back into level 3. And that's where we begin to look the big picture at systemic intelligence. So in level 3, one of the most, I think, unique and exciting things about level 3 is that we teach narrative coaching. And it harks back to that principle that Renee mentioned earlier today around how we construct our world through the stories or the narratives that we tell ourselves. And narrative coaching helps the coaching counterpart to identify the stories that they're telling themselves that are perhaps limiting or that are keeping them back from their full potential, and to rewrite that or write a new story that is going to allow much more fulfillment in both their professional and personal lives. And that's, I think, how IECL coaching is so powerful, and why we get some of those amazing kind of well-being and performance outcomes that we talked about earlier today. So that's it in a nutshell. Level 1, level 2, level 3. It sounds like a fairly simple journey, and it is for most people around 12 to 18 months minimum to go through that journey. We'll come back perhaps in the Q&A session a little bit later if anyone has specific questions about how that journey works. But in the meantime, let's move on. Renee, if we can go to the next slide, thanks. So IECL coach training is an internationally recognized pathway, and you might have heard in the previous session, Colleen saying that really one of the first things that she looks for in a coach is accreditation. And not surprisingly, I think that's increasingly common in purchasers of coaching, that they're looking for an accredited coach. And we are aligned with the ICF, or the International Coach Federation's core competencies. ICF's been around probably just about a year longer than we have, or maybe 2 years, and they've been raising the bar throughout that time, reviewing and constantly updating those core competencies to make sure that the coach training programs like IECLs that are accredited by ICF are teaching those competencies and are turning out really strong coaches, not just coaches with a piece of paper that they can hang on the wall. We also work in partnership with Charles Sturt University, which is an Australian, mainly online university, and we've been in partnership with them for about 6 years. And through Charles Sturt, we offer a graduate certificate and a graduate diploma in organisational coaching. So it's a possible pathway for those who are looking for graduate qualifications. All of this is done, as Renee said, in that context of organisational coaching. So it doesn't mean that you have to coach in an organisation if you train with us, but many of the people who come to train with us are already working in organisations, and they want to understand that context and how to coach within that probably more complex context than most perhaps life coaching or other one-on-one coaching relationships, because invariably you will have a relationship with the sponsor in the organization. So people like Angela and Colleen that we heard from in the previous session are involved in that coaching conversation at the beginning and sometimes the midpoint and at the end, to ensure that the organization's goals are being met. Another aspect of IECL coach training that is important just to mention is that the people that teach it, people like Renee and Tony and Charity and John that you've heard from today, they're all coaches first and then facilitators second. So they're not teaching you a theory or a textbook of coaching. They're actually teaching you how to coach from their own experience. And all of these faculty members are involved in our review of our curriculum each year. So they're bringing their reading, their research, their evidence-based practice back into the coach training. So I think that really enriches it and ensures that what you're learning is not only up to date, but is real life coaching. We have found over the years that we train our competitors, and sometimes we wonder why we're doing that. But the coach training is open to everyone, and we do welcome our competitors come along and become great coaches as well as everyone else. There may be another great organizational coach training out there, but I haven't yet come across it. And back when we were purely face-to-face, we did have people move to Australia for a couple of years in order to do levels 1, 2, and 3. Fortunately, now you can do them online, so you don't need to move to another country. But as far as we know, there isn't another really strong organizational coach training taught by organizational coaches. So we do find that we get a fantastic rating for our programs. They are recognized as world-class through that international NPS or Net Promoter Score rating. And as we've mentioned a couple of times today, we do partner with client organizations, many of whom are wanting to train up coaching capability in-house. So we can also offer level 1, 2, and 3 in-house for an in-house cohort. And in fact, we've got a couple of those going on at the moment. And that can be a great way to get a whole cohort of coaching champions trained up in your organization. So I mentioned previously, we like to think that curriculum is always at the cutting edge because we are reviewing it yearly. Part of that is just that our faculty are fairly excited about what they're reading. We've got a bit of an internal channel of coaching research, which I cannot keep up with. They're all reading constantly and bringing new material to that review process. So we're reviewing throughout the year, and then at the end of each year, over the last 23 years, updating the program so that it is completely up to date with the latest thinking in organizational coaching, and that it is evolving. And I think that that is very important. Coaching theory changes. Things like goal theory has changed a lot over the years, and it's important to understand the thinking behind coaching, behind something like goals, because you will have counterparts, no doubt, that will challenge you and will question you, as well as you challenging and questioning them. Moving right along, if you haven't done any coach training yet, then everything starts with Coaching Essentials Level 1, which is that foundational skills program that we mentioned earlier. We do have recognition of prior learning policy for people who have done some previous coach training, so you're very welcome to chat to us about that, and we can listen to your coaching and see where you are at, benchmark you against our curriculum, and possibly give you some kind of financial recognition of prior learning. But most everyone does start at level 1, because ICL have all of our own unique frameworks and language, and you'd be a little bit lost in level 2 without those. From level 2 onwards, there are lots of options. So as I mentioned earlier, level 1 and 2 are kind of two sides of the same coin, in that level 1 is the foundations, level 2 kind of opens that up into a whole new relationship. And then from there, you have options for people who are interested in gaining an ICF credential, like ACC, which is the Associate Certified Coach credential. Then we have an ACC fast track. That's one way of getting fairly quickly to ACC, and something that a lot of people take advantage of. Level 3 can also take you to ACC. With a level 3 certificate, you can apply straight to ICF for ACC. Team coaching is increasingly important. It's come up a couple of times today, and I think particularly with a lot of teams working remotely, and increasingly that's probably going to be the way in which teams primarily meet and work together. Team coaching is becoming more and more important, and I guess more valued by organizations and recognized as being something quite distinct to group coaching, for example. So as a level 2 alumni of ICL, you are welcome to our team coaching program. It's something that we are continuing to evolve and develop, especially as ICF continues to evolve the team coaching core competencies. So that's something that's very much on the move at the moment. We mentioned earlier the CSU, or Charles Sturt University postgrad pathways, definitely an option. Not something that you have to do. You don't actually even have to start with us. You can start with them. You can do them concurrently, leadership and coaching subjects at the same time as you like. And I think a really nice aspect of that is you don't need an undergraduate degree to enter into those postgraduate pathways. So if perhaps you got this far without an undergrad degree and you want to go on and do postgrad studies, you can do that by starting with levels 1 and 2. And part of that pathway to Charles Sturt is a pure theory coaching course that we run called the Principles of Organizational Coaching. It runs just once a year, and it's actually a fantastic course to get you to look individually at your professional development as a coach, where you're going, get some coaching on that, set out a bit of a development pathway for yourself, and then begin to look at all the different coaching frameworks, the research and theories, and really start to formulate who you are as a coach and the style of coaching that you want to offer. And so it helps in many ways for people around the marketing of themselves as a coach, and how they present themselves, whose shoulders they stand on, and what kind of coaching specifically they are offering. So since COVID, over 2 years ago, we have been offering mainly virtual programs. We are just starting to ease back into some face-to-face programs. We had forgotten how fun it is. Renee was in Melbourne last week teaching face-to-face, and reminded us all that it is actually lovely to see people face-to-face. And we're also acutely aware that it's not always practical. There's been a fantastic democratization of learning through the online offering for people who perhaps live remotely from a major city, are able to join, perhaps who have people that they're caring for at home, or are unable to travel for whatever reason. So we've got a lot of options now for people in all time zones, and face-to-face and virtual. So hopefully we can offer something that suits you if you're interested to follow this pathway. We've got a little bit more to go, and then we're going to stop and hear from some of our alumni and also take some questions from you. Renee mentioned earlier that coaching is a craft, and it's all about practice. It's not something that goes away after level 3. Really, to be a great coach, you need to be a practicing coach. And we find that working internally at IECL, you can't really teach coaching or talk about coaching or write about coaching if you're not doing coaching. So it's practice that enriches all of that. And we really highly recommend practice. And because of that, we have put into place lots of opportunities for you to get practice in our training. So from level 1 onwards, we encourage you to keep a coaching log. You will need it to log your hours, to build on those hours, and ideally continue to be educated as a coach. For this reason, we've set up both IECL Alumni program, which has been ongoing for 23 years, and also the IECL membership program, which is just about 18 months old. So both of those programs are designed to support you as a coach to continue to develop, but also to get practice. So we can pair you up through the membership program with other coaches at your level to do some quite structured coaching practice and reflection on practice. And it's a great way to get your hours up. The alumni program is also designed to continue to develop you as a coach. Through membership, we also have coaching demonstrations. So some of the amazing coaches at IECL, PCC and MCC coaches will do a live coaching demo about once a month. And it's an amazing opportunity to watch someone being coached. You don't get to get inside that room very often to see what happens in the coaching room. Those are fantastic opportunities to continue to develop. Watching great coaches in action can really develop your coaching and give you a whole new sense of how it can be done, what's possible as a coach. There's lots of membership options when you are a coach beyond IECL membership. If you're going to go for ICF credentials, ideally become an ICF member first. And they have a whole program and chapters throughout the world. The Association for Coaching, or AC, also has a whole learning and development program, as does the EMCC, the European Mentoring and Coaching something or other. I never know what that C stands for. And there's also the Asia Pacific Association for Coaching. So there are lots of different professional development programs throughout the world that can support you as a coach. But we hope that you will, first of all, work with us, because we'd love to welcome you into our coaching alumni family. Speaking of that family, we are going to hear today from a couple of different coaches in the alumni program. I'm just checking in our list of participants who are online to see if, yes, Abhishek has joined us. I might start by welcoming Abhishek. Abhishek is a very fresh alumni member. He just did level 1 last week. And Charity was teaching Abhishek last week, and she said she thought he'd be a great person to hear from while it's all fresh. So Abhishek, would love to invite you to step up and tell us about your experience from last week.
Thank you, Mandy. Good afternoon, everyone. As Mandy said, my name is Abhishek Sharma. I'm a director of sales engineering at VMware. I did the coaching level 1 workshop last week. So it's only day 3 after the workshop, so a lot of practice required. But I thought, what to share really, but I thought I'll answer a couple of questions that I was answering for myself. For me, first thing was really why I want to do this. And, the journey started, I would say, in my professional life, really about 15 years ago when I was focusing on leadership and management. And a lot of focus there was really about, how I could help individuals, how I could help people really develop and do better and be able to take people on a journey. And over the course of those 15 years, I came across a lot of the concepts around mentorship, coaching, counseling. There's a lot of different roles that we end up performing over time. And what I realized really in the last maybe year or so is a lot of those roles that I was performing were based on my, me being an SME in my area. And, as much as that's good and I want to continue doing that, what I learned that it also limits me in really being able to go outside that realm of where I'm not an SME. And, one of those things that really stuck with me was, to develop my skills and ability as a coach, so I could go outside of those SME areas. Some of my peers that have asked for coaching outside of my organization, and that's kind of why I went on this journey. Why ICL? I think I just joined about 10 minutes ago, and Mandy's been taking everyone through some of the reasons why. My reasons were, outside of that, you get certified content and things like that, but also around, alumni and people. I have spoken to a few coaches that I've been privileged to work over the last few years. And the first thing when I went to them and said, look, this is what I want to do. These are the challenges I'm finding in my coaching ability, being an SME. And they basically spoke very highly of, the certifications and the workshops provided by ICL. They told me to wait for the physical one, but that was last year, and I had no idea when the physical ones were ever going to come back. I couldn't wait, so I signed up for the virtual one. And I'm pretty sure physical one was better, but I don't know. The only thing we discussed at the last day that we missed is that after the workshop, we could go for a drink as a group together. I think we definitely missed up. But in terms of the experience, we didn't miss a lot. I wouldn't say, in terms of actual content. So that's again why I would say why ICL for me. And I think, again, just reiterating what Mandy said, we had, the two facilitators we had, they coach first and facilitators second. So when you're getting examples of real life, you're getting examples of some of the challenges. And we had some really good discussions in the group around, what we believe in. And there's some concepts that you come across and, you find that challenging and you push back. And that's kind of being in that learning state, right? And adult learning, that's how we are. So you're allowed to question, you're allowed to push back. And, because of their experience, they can really share on real life scenarios and how and why. And I think that really helps the ability to question and learn from that. Some of the biggest learnings for me was really around the concept of being able to unlock a person's potential so that they can, be best themselves, so they can perform and maximize their own performance. And again, being an SME coming into this, it's something that I really have, challenged with, is not falling in that category and really helping individual, really bring out their own potential. The other things that I would say is, people like yourselves, I just saw there's like 64 participants here. The group that we had last week, absolutely amazing. In terms of the experience, varying, we had executive chefs to people that are in, armed forces, to people that are in the corporate world, just such an experience. And that adds to the learning in the workshop. But also following from it, the amount of, we've already started to reach out to each other. Like I said, it's only day 3, but we've already started to reach out and start to some connections on on how we want to practice and how we want to maybe explore further on some of the things that we were coaching each other on, during the workshop. So the people and the quality of the group really adds to the learning and adds a lot of value in there. Facilitators I've already spoken about, and the content, but it's the practice as well, right? So it's not just the workshop. We practiced a lot there. And I know I already got an email yesterday saying, make sure that you go back to the coaching circles. There's more practice coming. There's hours to log. And I think it's just the way the course is set up. I think I'm being set up for success instead of somebody giving me some knowledge and walking away from it, and we go back to the busy lives that we all live. So overall, the experience has been really good. I can say that I've already started incorporating some of what I learned last week. And one of the results is that my direct manager and leader who's in Singapore is now signed up for the course as well. So I think that was a good compliment from him saying, okay, I can see where you're going with this. I think I need to do the same. So that was a positive kind of confirmation on Friday that I got. I said, okay, that's good. But for me, it's just, like I said, incorporating that in my daily work, and really see where I go with this, in terms of where the journey takes me. Thanks. I don't know how much time I've used, but thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has for me.
Thank you, Abhishek. That's perfect. It was great to hear from you. And I think you gave a great sense of what level 1 is like. And yeah, I like that you mentioned the group, because we always say, wow, this is the most amazing group. We say that every group. We do somehow attract really fantastic people into this program. So you do learn a huge amount from the other people in the room as well as from the faculty. And you do spend quite a lot of time together coaching each other. So you do definitely learn. Does anyone have a specific question for Abhishek before we move on? Because we're going to hear from a couple of other alumni as well. No? Okay. If you think of one, Abhishek, I think, is able to stay around for a little while, so we can ask him a little bit later on. I'd love to hear now from Rebecca. And Rebecca, I remember you were in a level 1 that I was involved with in late 2020.
That's right.
I know you've then since gone on and done your level 2 about a year later. So really curious to hear from you about your experience of levels 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mandy, and thank you, Renee, for giving me the opportunity today. And Abhishek, you're a hard act to follow. As it says on my photo there, I'm a learning and development partner. So I work for a global leadership development company in an advisory, consultancy and sales role. So I actually don't coach as part of my remit. I came to coaching through life coaching, actually. And I started off with training in mental health and decided that that wasn't really where what I was built for. And life coaching seemed to be a more attractive option for me. I spent many decades in business development roles in the corporate sector and in advertising and IT and other organizations that had very complex systems. And I thrive in corporate environments. So the whole life coaching thing for me didn't seem to fit. One of my clients actually recommended IECL to me, and they had done their level 1 and they spoke very highly of the training. And upon investigating, and it took me a good 12 months to come to the decision, because I could not find time for a 3-day course face-to-face in my diary. Once the pandemic hit, suddenly I had time, and virtual training became a new thing. So I took the plunge, and level 1 is often described as boot camp in terms of of what it gives you. It gave me the opportunity to unlearn some habits and relearn some new skills and build some strength around the foundational skills of a coach. I wanted to take a year to practice before I built into the ICF. That's my intention, is to become a credential coach with the ICF. And I wanted to give myself some time to build my hours, because it's not something that I currently do in my work. So what ICL provided for me was the peer-to-peer coaching through the IECL Alumni, which was absolutely fantastic, because it really built some of that strength in and confidence to then go into the level 2 training. The level 2 training is sometimes described as having, from boot camp to spa. So it's highly immersive, it's transformational, and it was a transformational experience for me. The training itself really exponentially developed my self-awareness on how I show up as a coach. It helped me look at where my gaps were. It helped me become a better, deeper listener. It helped me develop more reflective practices so that I became more mindful in the way I coach, as well as becoming a lot more confident and purposeful and intentional in the way I coach others. So where I was really nervous and always suffered with anxiety and also imposter syndrome in level 1, and it comes and goes. Let's face it, it's coaching, comes and goes. The more you learn, the more you think you need to know. Level 2 gave me that confidence to just do it and show up, and also not put so much pressure on myself, and relax into more of an organic style of coachings, whilst having that really strong foundation of the level 1 and the level 2 techniques that I could use when they felt appropriate, rather than having to stick to a formula. I no longer use cheat sheets. It's freed me up incredibly well. The other thing that ISL offers me is that community of coaches, of experienced coaches. I've made some amazing friendships through the program that I meet with at least once a month. There are a couple of coaches that I've kept in touch with through level 1 and level 2, where we meet and we bounce off each other. So whilst I'm not in formal supervision, it's a way of having some ongoing development as coach as I build my hours. So the peer-to-peer coaching program is something that I highly recommend, especially if you don't have the opportunity to coach inside your organization and build your hours if you want to credential as a coach. So it's keeping me sharp. I have the ACC Fast Track Insights as my next step. However, that might change in 12 months. You never know. Absolutely applaud all the trainers who bring a lot of humility in the way they coach as well. They're very authentic in how they show up as coaches, and it just brings a very safe space into being vulnerable as a coach. And I think that's what I learned in level 2, is that being vulnerable is okay, and it's part of it. It's a strength, and it's part of the learning. So it's been a wonderful experience for me, and highly recommend coaches keep going.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I really enjoyed hearing that. I hadn't heard your story about level 2 before, so that was great to hear. I love what you said about imposter syndrome, and yeah, lots of coaches have it. I heard a very experienced coach recently say, the less you say, the more you get paid. And I think that is true for many coaches, in that as you become a better and better coach, the questions get shorter and fewer. And so I guess some imposter syndrome could come up along the way there sometimes. And the peer-to-peer coaching, thanks for highlighting that. That's part of the membership program, and a really great way to continue to practice and purely designed to support people's ongoing development. Does anyone have any specific questions for Rebecca about anything she mentioned there before we move on? All right. Thank you so much, Rebecca. We're going to hear now from Tony Williams. Tony is a level 3 accredited coach with IECL. He did level 1, 2, and 3 fairly quickly, He's a full-time coach. He's also a board advisor, and he's also recently done our team coaching program. So we wanted to invite Tony to speak about both of those and just tell us a bit about his experience. Welcome, Tony.
Thanks, Mandy. I think Hannah was going to ask Rebecca something. She came off mute, so I just saw her come off mute.
Thank you. I missed that. Hi, Hannah.
Thank you, Tony. I think my microphone wasn't working. Rebecca, I just wanted to understand from level 2, what impact did you have on your day-to-day career and work?
On my day-to-day career?
Yes.
I'm in the process of actually working to transition into coaching for my organization because they have more faith in me now. So
Awesome.
That's kind of nice. But I've actually launched my own coaching practice as a side hustle. So
Awesome.
I decided to take the leap to launch my own practice and feature in some directories and become more active on LinkedIn and build my own professional brand. Whether I transition into coaching for the organization I work with, I'll be coaching no matter what.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rebecca. This is very insightful. And thank you, Tony, for noticing. Cheers.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yes, thank you, Tony. Back to
One
you.
of the examples that level 3 coaching gives you. It gives you a third eye that you're able to spot things. So my name is Tony Williams. I am board advisor, accredited coach. I spent 30 odd years in banking, about 20 of which in senior HR roles, and set up a consultancy business in 2015. And in the very early stages of COVID, consultancy was quite quiet, particularly here in Hong Kong. And I thought, well, maybe I'm going to accelerate something I was going to do later in my career, which was move to be more of an executive coach. And that was timed beautifully with IECL 1 and Mr. Raymond turning up in Hong Kong, probably the last time he was in Hong Kong. And basically, that's 2 years ago. It's 2 years ago, 2 weeks ago. And that was my first entry into the whole world of formal coach training. I had spent a couple of years hustling as an internal coach in the mid-90s in banking, but this was my kind of first foray into official coaching. And then I'm one of those annoying HR people that was always a generalist and looked into the OD and talent and leadership functions and looked at them and say, what are you talking about? I don't understand your language. So I was always on the kind of the more commercial end of HR. So this was a kind of a bit of a foreign profession to me. So I met John and team. The first question he asks you on level 1 is stand in a line on the continuum about how well you know coaching. And being the very low ego person that I was, I went up the 80% end. I know everything there is to know about coaching. And basically over the 2 years that have followed, I've proved that was a way overestimation in terms of my knowledge and capability. And what I've been doing since is actually trying to fill the gaps by doing level 1, level 2, level 3. I also did principles of coaching last year, and I did team coaching last month. And once you see something that works, you stick with it. And the whole IECL approach works. And, you know, building on what Rebecca and Abhishek have said, the benefits of how IECL goes about training coaches or to want to be coaches, it just fits really neatly. I mean, it's the learning cycle in practice. You have theory, you have practice, you get to do, and then you have reflection. And reflection, as we know, is pretty key to learning. So I did level 1 in February 2020. I did level 2 in the April. And I think those two that close together, to be honest, I think works. You do feel not shortchanged after level 1, but you feel like there's more. And then you do level 2 and you go, aha, now it makes sense. So I always think level 1, level 2 is part A and part B. And I suspect, Rebecca, you're nodding, so I suspect you agree with that principle. I then took a bit of a gamble and thought, well, I'll do level 3 or advanced coaching. Tony with an I and I had a chat, and that was a great chat, which was, am I really ready 3 months after finishing level 2? And it was a close call, I'll be honest, because I think there is advantage in practicing your coaching, being a coach, working where you fit in this wonderful coach continuum that there is about the types of coaching that you get involved with. And I think looking back, probably another 3, 4, 5 months of coaching, of practicing, of studying would have been more helpful. Being honest, I think it was a bit soon, but I survived, and here I am. The advantage of level 3 in the advanced coaching training, I think, is particularly because of where I sit in the coaching world. So I have a number of senior clients, mostly large banks, for obvious reasons, given I spent most of my time in large banks. And the types of intervention and the types of experience they're looking for demands something more than perhaps level 1 and level 2 gives you. So I'm coaching a couple of people at the moment, senior HR people who are going for the top job. And a lot of what we're talking around is presence, signature presence. How is it that you show up as a senior HR leader? And you learn some of this in the coaching that you do in level 3. You learn some great tools and techniques, which in my mind are the level at which, if you are doing executive coaching, I think you need that kind of experience and practice and tool set to be able to deploy with these people. We also do things like authenticity, which is a key part of the leadership in senior levels. And that's, it's a big slug of the level 3 as well. Principles of coaching is brilliant. If you like reading, it's even more brilliant. There is loads of, after you've spent a year and a half, as I had, being the coach, did about 400 hours. And basically what you realize is I still know nothing. I had this massive imposter syndrome myself, which is I actually know nothing about coaching. I'm getting away with it. And the great thing about principles of coaching is it takes you back and gives you a lot of the underpinning theories. And when you do principles of coaching, you realize actually where level 1, level 2, level 3 is grounded from. So it's particularly great at giving you some underpinning theories that then support why we do narrative coaching, etc. So highly commend that when you're ready. But the question that Mandy asked me to cover as well here is team coaching. And I am one of those people that sees the way that the conversation about leadership is going. The world's got bigger problems. It needs collective leadership, not messiah leaders. And therefore, teams are going to become ever more important. So team coaching is something that I've become particularly passionate about. And it's something where I think I will focus a lot of my future energy. Level 1, I did in person. Level 2, level 3, principles of coaching and team coaching, I all did online. And I have to say testimony to the ICL team for making online work. I was really doubtful about team coaching online, I'll be honest. We went for it and it was great. And I think that combination of practice, theory, reflection, and then doing is great and really works for me. Just to pick up on something that both Abhishek and Rebecca said. I'm still coaching. Me and one of my level 1 cohorts from 2 years ago still meet monthly to coach each other on a peer coaching basis. I still connect with 2 of my level 2 coaches in a similar basis. And so the kind of opportunity as an alumni, and don't wait for IECL to set it up, you can do this yourself informally, is to keep that peer coaching and keep learning from each other. And another point I think that both Abhishek and Rebecca made was the diversity of people that you meet is incredible. And I hung around with bankers for 30 years, very weird breed of people. I've now met all sorts of different characters with different backgrounds, with different jobs, social workers in Australia, for example. And this just gives you a completely different perspective. So way beyond the art of coaching and the science of coaching, you also get to meet some great people and learn from them. My final thing I would say, and I could go on for hours and hours out, but the final thing I would say is I'm one of those people that is doing the Charles Sturt University study. And for the sake of an extra paper after level 1 and level 2, which doesn't take long to write, you do get a credit towards what I'm now doing is a master's. So Mandy was saying about, the postgrad certificate, postgrad diploma. I'm actually upgrading now to the master's and using the IECL credits as part of that way. And as I've been also studying at the university directly, I'm actually 75% of the way through the masters already. So it's a great opportunity to continue to learn, to continue to grow, and that, you know, that learning cycle stuff that we all talk about, which is the balancing of reflection, of theory, of practice, and of doing. My final thought was I was trying to build on Rebecca's point. If level 1 was boot camp and level 2 spa, then I think level 3 is that intensive health retreat you have in Switzerland, where they take all sorts of bodily fluids and test you for things. But fun nevertheless, and it's good for you. I'll leave you with that thought.
Thank you so much, Tony. I haven't heard that one before, but we'll test that out. Thank you so much. Really great to hear your story. I don't know where you get all the time and energy to do all this study and 400 hours of coaching over the last couple of years. You're amazing. So congratulations there. We have just a really quick moment to have some questions. And if you've got questions you want to hold and ask the faculty, we're going to meet the faculty soon. We have some other faculty members on the line. So feel free to ask now, or I'm sure John has a song he wants to play us before the next.
This is my song, so
okay.
Come on, hurry up.
Song. Have a quick break.
Yeah.
Go away because we have some very special guests here on the line, including IECL's founder, John Matthews. So see you soon.